Now joined by John Ziskind, also known as Z. He's a trimmer on the BMW Oracle and also a two-time World Match Racing champion. He's going to provide us with some real-time analysis on the water. First of all, John, I want to ask you what you think of these classic 12s.
Well, these 12s are really, really exciting, especially for myself, because growing up sailing, these are the boats I was looking at in magazines and seeing the guys, and you know, it really led me in the direction of wanting to become a professional sailor and be an America's Cup sailor. And I mean, I'm so excited just to be able to see them and actually even be near them. I feel like a kid at a candy store. We're in our final minute to the start here. All four teams are jockeying for the position. You can see, it looks to me like KZ7 really wants the pin. And to me that says they want the left side of the race course. So they're on that lay line, they're on a direct line for the pin at full steam ahead. They're in the position to win the start right now. The boat behind also wants to pin as well, but they're in the bad air, the turbulent air off the back of the KZ7 sails. So as you can see, it's all about time and distance. And away they go. Perfect start on KZ7. And now KZ3, who won the last race, starts in a bad position, and they're actually going to start now in last. It looks to me like the plan has changed. Everybody is looking to go left. That means the wind is stronger and better in the left side of the race course. KZ7 is out to a little bit of an early lead, and that perfect start could translate into a winning position. So let's watch and see what happens here. KA8 went back over to cover KZ3, and KZ3 is back. Now KA8 has to make a decision on what to do. All these guys are talking about is how to manage where they want to go and manage the other boats in the group. Two boats are going left and two boats are going right. So the leader really needs to be careful on what he wants to do in managing the other boats. He doesn't want to give them much leverage because they're taking some risk. He doesn't want their reward to pay out by them being ahead of him. But you'll see some of the great trimmers of the world are actually here, and you'll see some great tacks and great cast-offs and good grinding, and you'll see how it all works. You can see as we get a little closer to the boat here how it all works out, how they're making nice fine-tuned adjustments and keeping the boat just going perfectly at the right angle and the right heel and the right speed. The bow's coming out really nicely. You can see how the boat was designed to actually go through the waves in the water. It's really fantastic. You see the spray coming off the bow, and it actually is they have it trimmed perfectly, both from the fore and aft angle, the front to back angle. They want that exact gap to make sure the boat's going well. Just got a nice puff here. They ease the mainsail out a little bit to keep the boat at the right angle of heel, which is probably about 30 degrees. And now you're starting to see some spray come on board. KZ7 looks like they made a good choice. Looks like they're getting ready for attack here. When they tack the boat, watch how nice and smooth they do it, how nice and smooth they trim the sails on. Watch how the angle of heel comes from what we're seeing now at about 30 degrees, comes upright, the sails go through, everybody trims on in sync, and the boat comes back up to speed. Really fantastic stuff. Here they go. Gone through the wind, and now they're back onto the port tack. Boat's starting to heel over, legs are starting to come out on the rail, and the sails are starting to be trimmed on, all in unison. Really great stuff.
And great stuff it is, as the Grand Prix class competition in Valencia was largely a Kiwi show, featuring KZ3, KZ5, and KZ7. Collectively known as the Plastic Fantastics, the KZs were commissioned by New Zealand entrepreneur Sir Michael Fay to challenge for the 1987 America's Cup in Fremantle, Australia. In 1987, it was KZ7, Kiwi Magic, who proved to be the fastest among the Plastic Fantastics. 2 decades later in Valencia, although Bill Koch and KZ7 jumped out to an early lead, it was KZ3 and KZ5 who sought out the right side of the Port America's Cup racecourse, and with it, the freshening sea breeze.
You can see KZ3 is coming on what I described earlier as the ley line. You see they're putting their spinnaker pole up now and just getting everything preset to try to have the snappiest round they can have. There's the hoist. The sail's filling now. The Genoa's coming down, and a really great set on KZ3. If KZ5 doesn't have equally as good of a set, they'll actually lose time. So they need to do it just as great as the front boat did.
As the boats rounded Saturday's final mark for the downwind run to the finish line, KZ3 enjoyed an insurmountable 45-second lead over KZ5, and with that, clinched the Valencia Regatta Grand Prix title.
The first race was won and lost by the decision to go right or left, right off the starting line. We saw KZ3 and KZ5 both go to the right-hand side of the course, giving them a major advantage at the top mark, where 5 and 8 had to, KZ3, KZ5, and 7 and 8 had to really make up, and just couldn't really make it up in the end. Big advantage to that decision to go right by KZ3, and then also on that second windward leg, to change their game plan to go left, kept them the lead. So strategically speaking, they sailed just better than the other guys, and were able to win the race by doing that.
KZ3 and the Plastic Fantastic Sisters were the first Kiwi foray into the America's Cup, a competition in which New Zealand has since become a perennial powerhouse. In 1987, of course, the Kiwis suffered defeat at the hands of Dennis Conner in the Challenger Series finals. Conner, who was the first American to ever lose the Cup in 1983, ultimately prevailed in his 1987 quest for redemption aboard Stars and Stripes, becoming the first American to win back the Cup, in arguably the most famous America's Cup of all time, and the last Cup contested in the 12-meter class. Although Stars and Stripes is not with us for the Centennial Tour, we had the opportunity to discuss her heritage, legacy, and the last Cup competition aboard the 12s with Bill Trankel, Director of Operations for Team Stars and Stripes and President of Dennis Conner Sports.
Hi, my name is Bill Trankel. I'm a long-term member of Dennis Conner's Stars and Stripes America's Cup team. Started with him in 1980 with his first campaign with the Freedom Campaign, and finished up in the last America's Cup Challenge in 2003 in Auckland, New Zealand. Well, it was a pretty special time. We trained for 18 months for that America's Cup. It was kind of the first time we had really ever worked that hard, that long, to win the America's Cup. It was very important because we had lost it the first time in 132 years. So as we got closer and closer to winning it, it became more and more important and more pressure on us. But we had a great team of people. We were all so focused on the common goal. There was no issue about getting paid. We were just doing it for the love of the sport. And it was pretty intense because we had a lot of pressure on us. I was in charge of the mast program. I designed and built the masts, and was in charge of every day going up and checking, make sure there was no faults that might cause a race-losing breakdown. And it was pretty stressful, and I couldn't wait till that last race was over when a mast was still standing. Well, of course, after we won the America's Cup in '87, it was a huge deal, because in the past, you won the America's Cup, you went to New York Yacht Club, there was a dinner and basically a trophy presentation where the New York Yacht Club handed the trophy back to themselves. But because we had returned the America's Cup back after losing it after a 132-year winning streak, it was a big event. Donald Trump was involved. He wanted to welcome Dennis Conner and the team back, and he threw a ticker tape parade down Fifth Avenue. Huge party up in the Trump Tower, champagne, and my parents came out from Long Island, and they never knew what I did every 3 years, went off to do the America's Cup. I never quite understood what a big deal it was, but when they were up there standing next to Donald Trump and the America's Cup and the top of Trump Tower, they were pretty excited. And then we went on to the White House, got to meet Ronald Reagan in the Oval Office. You know, those memories will live with all of us forever. In the last 20 years, the America's Cup has changed so much in that it's become much more professional. There's a lot more people that are doing it as a profession. There's a lot more campaigns that go full time. They don't stop from campaign to campaign. They just roll from one to the other. And that's changed the sport in that it created a new kind of business around the America's Cup, where the professional skippers, and they're out marketing themselves by racing the match racing circuit. Designers are pushing harder to market themselves, and their technicians that work in this America's Cup design field that are running towing tanks or computational fluid dynamic programs. And then it's a trading. It's just like the NFL, where you're looking for the offensive coordinator that was on the winning team last time. The biggest difference between the new America's Cup class boats and the 12-meter class boats is that the 12 meters were a much smaller, tighter, compact boat that you were racing. Aside from the speed difference and technology that went into the hulls, just racing the boat, you felt like a much tighter, cohesive unit when you raced the 12-meter. The America's Cup boat, you're stretched out over 82 feet. It's just a wider, longer platform, although not necessarily wider, because as we've gotten further into the class, they've gotten narrower and narrower. But it's a big boat. It's a different feel to it. carbon fiber mast, the carbon fiber hulls, new winches, new electronic systems of the new America's Cup class boats all makes it very interesting for the sailors to race the boats. But in reality, when you're racing against another team, it doesn't matter whether you're in an America's Cup class boat or a 12 meter.
When we return to Valencia, a modern class match race.